Okay, thank you everyone. Just a quick introduction. My name is Richard Morris. I'm the Innovation Lead for Connected and Autonomous Vehicles at InnovateUK. I've not been long in the role. My background is more the autonomous vehicle side and testing of them, but obviously getting up to speed with the connected side. Just like to talk a little bit about what we're doing, why we're doing it. I think that comes back to the last question to some extent. We've heard about CAV and how CAV has been established. And basically, InnovateUK provides funding to industry to support innovation. That's fundamentally our role. InnovateUK has a pot of money which it does various things with, but we also set up competitions for other parts of government, and the part of government which I'm effectively working for is for CAV, because we're running competitions specifically for CAV in this space. Well, that's what I'm doing. So, what is government doing? Well, this slide shows the three streams that government is involved at the moment. So on the left-hand side, we've got the regulatory approach. So we've got various activities on international bodies like WP29. There's the electric and autonomous vehicle bill, automated vehicle bill going through. We've got the code of practice, which obviously helps companies test and develop their vehicles on UK roads. And there are various other activities going on. One of them, which is a recent one, is if you now have a car which will do valet parking. So in other words, you get out of the vehicle, press a button, and the car will park itself in a parking slot. That is now legal. It wasn't legal until recently, but it's now legal. Indeed, the next version of the highway code will include that in it. So these are the sorts of things that government are doing on the regulation side. In the centre, we've seen government is also, CAV is supporting collaborative research and development. There's 150 million has either been committed or will be committed within the next few weeks. And currently we've got 73 projects. We've heard about some of the results of those projects in previous presentations this morning. And we're waiting the Minister to sign off and agree the final one, which we're hoping to launch on Monday. So I'm hoping he will actually put his name on a piece of paper and we can get on and do that. Well, it will be CAV 4. But the one or the area I'd like to talk about particularly this morning is the one on the right, which is the infrastructure for developing CAVs. So the whole purpose of this is to encourage UK industry and the world to come to the UK to develop connected autonomous vehicles. And to do that, you need to have the world's best infrastructure. And that's really the sort of guiding thing behind this particular strand. Now in the UK, we've got quite a few very, very good quality test and development centres, but they're all actually in competition with each other. They are sometimes complementary, sometimes they overlap. And the idea was that we need to add some new facilities to be able to develop connected autonomous vehicles. So rather than building one big shiny new facility, the idea was to upgrade the existing facilities, but bring them together so that they can offer a cohesive offering to the engineering community that wants to develop connected autonomous vehicles. So to do that, a number of competitions have been set up, and Meridian, which has been mentioned before, Meridian has been put in as not so much a management layer, but more a sort of coordination layer to go out and sell what we've got in terms of these new facilities, but also to identify the gaps and to plug the gaps and to make sure that the facilities will continue to support into the future. So in 2016, government put out a call for evidence to say to the industry, effectively, what do you want to do? What do you need to do? What do you need us to provide so that you can do the job of developing these vehicles? And from that call for evidence came this table, which some of you may be familiar with. In the first call, or in the first competition, which was run at the back end of last year, there were the three areas highlighted were in phase one, were subject to a competition. And from that, we had 4 winners, which effectively have 5 test facilities. So there's the Midlands Future Mobility, which is in the West Midlands. McT, which is the joint one which we've heard already between Race and Millbrook. There's Ticket, which is a limit handling facility at Hariba Myra. And that's, in some ways, that's one that doesn't get mentioned very much. That's really just a huge, great, what they call Black Lake. So it's a large area of tarmac where you can put temporary buildings in whatever format you want, and vehicles can then drive through a real simulated infrastructure. And then we've got the Smart Mobility Living Laboratory down in London, which again is on 2 sites. That's Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park and at Greenwich. So we're now into phase 2. Phase 2 was launched 2 weeks ago. There are 2 competitions within phase 2. There's Meridian 3, which is looking at the 4 areas highlighted there. And in effect, these are looking at plugging in some of the gaps. So the first phase was looking specifically at urban, and phase 2 is looking at highway, so that's motorways particularly, and parking. And so we're looking for facilities which are both controlled, so ones which are on test tracks, and also public ones, depending on whether you're on an early stage of development or a later stage of development within the vehicle development program. So there are 4 streams there representing parking and highway, controlled and public. And if you're interested in that, there's a link to the competition which is open at the moment, and that closes at the beginning of September. The main thing I want to talk to you about today is the other part of phase 2, which is the other competition, Meridian 2, which is all about the data. Now, I feel I'm getting into hot water here with some of the conversations that were just happening a few minutes ago.
Go for it, Richard.
But I'm going to go for it anyway. The whole point of this is to try and find one place where the industry can go to put their data through. Fundamentally, I know that there are lots of different platforms, and I know that they are all doing different things, or some of them doing the same things, and it's fragmented. And fragmented is what we can't afford in a connected community. So we need to have something we can all point to and say, that is the best. That is the world-leading facility which will support us developing this industry. And we're expecting, fundamentally, the existing facilities to either come together or to build on what they've got. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
But that is a 1980s mindset. No, just let it present, please.
So, in terms of what the competition is, we want, rather than building a whole series of new platforms, we want one platform which will do as much as we can do. And to that end, we have a fund of 5 million to 50% fund a facility. So what I want to make clear here is what we're trying to. This is a test and development facility. It isn't a trading platform which will make money by trading data. It's a facility for developing those processes and developing those businesses and developing those techniques. So we expect to see real data flowing through it, not false data, not synthetic data, but real data. We want it to be sustainable as a test facility. I'm not sure whether some of the other facilities, the ones which I'm aware of, are not sustainable, but this has to be sustainable as a test facility. So we expect this to have a 10-year life, and we expect it to evolve and to change, and we expect that to be part of the funding structure, or part of the funding plan for that facility. And we're expecting it to use all the wonderful new techniques and technologies which are around the blockchain, and it's all got to be GDPR compliant and all the rest of it, of course. And we want it to be not only representative of what the future of the UK will look like, but what these data platforms will be like across the world. So we want UK to try and take a slice of the rest of the world market as well. I'm not going to go into all the details about the text of what the scope is. It's there, and it's also there on the website if you want to have a read of it. But what I would like to say is that we've obviously gone through the North Highland report, and there are quite a number of the recommendations there which we have baked into this competition. So we want to hit specific recommendations that they've highlighted in that report. Now that isn't actually written into the scope, but if you go onto the briefing event documentation and go into my presentation there, it tells you which ones we expect the competition to meet, or applications into the competition to meet. So obviously we're expecting participation from the local authorities as well as industry. And we know that there are consortia which are forming to look at putting in bids. Some of those have local authorities, some don't. InnovateUK is independent and neutral in this. But what we can do is we can point you towards the KTN and specifically to George Phillip, who is involved in this, and he has a good understanding of where the consortia are, which ones are doing what, and who they want to join their individual consortia. So if you're interested in this, I'd suggest talking to George if you don't have any contacts into the existing consortia which are being formed. So, thank you for that.